Hey, Neely from Leverage Brands. Welcome to the Rocky Mountain Writer Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you on. And we just touched base a few, I don't know, it was probably 5 or 6 weeks ago. You reached out, and I think you may have quickly signed up as a member of RMFW, which is fantastic. Welcome to the community.
Thank you.
Yeah. But as writers, we always love hearing from marketing folks and finding out what's the latest and what's the greatest and what's working these days. But before we kind of get into that and everything, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your own background and how you got into marketing?
Sure. I have what they call just the typical path. I was a music major in college at Belmont University here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I reside now. And then I went to law school, like any other music major. And right after law school, I jumped in to become a social media manager at an author management company. And eventually took over their law work as well. So I had the distinction of being the general counsel and chief marketing officer at the author management company by the time it dissolved in 2017. And in 2018, the COO and I decided to start our own company that does digital marketing for thought leaders and authors. So, like I said, just the typical path to get
Yeah,
to right where we
yeah,
are today.
yeah. Okay, music. Let's just stop right there. What
All right.
sort of music were you into? What was it? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I went to college as a church music major. I ended up doing classical voice with a minor in music business. So even from that point, I had that geared toward the creative side, but also toward the business end. I like mixing the right and left brain together. And that's kind of my
Yeah.
sweet spot, especially helping creators do the business side of what they do best. And I've been able to do that as an attorney. I've been able to do that as a marketer, and now as a business owner as well.
You still got the music thing going? I mean, at some level?
I do. Well, I married a worship leader, Mark, and she ropes me into playing guitar here and now, here and again. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I still get to do that from time to time, and it's a great creative outlet for me.
that's great. Well, so what happened, if you don't mind going into it, what happened to the social media company?
Yeah, well, the author management company dissolved. No fault of the authors who were involved, but basically there was some stuff that happened in that Me Too movement that came out about the manager, and the authors decided to split. And so after that happened, we joined up with one of the authors and continued to provide that digital marketing service, which has been, it's been a benefit to all of us. I think we learned a lot through that process, and we're able to really make sure that we're building this business to last. It's not dependent on any of us individually. It's more dependent on the work and the content being helpful and useful. And so that's really been a focus of ours, is to help worthy message bearers reach as many people as possible online. And when it's about the message, it seems to endure.
And before we sort of focus in on books and everything like that, just glancing at your website for Leverage Brands, you didn't, I gather you didn't start in books, or maybe you did, but you actually provide services to a variety of types of clients.
That's right. Yeah, we've been able to work with folks kind of across the gamut, whether it's Jerry Jenkins, we've been working with from day one. So he teaches writers how to write, and we build his online platform for him. We're providing the strategy for that. He's providing the content. And we took that model and started working with some other folks as well, whether it's people who specialize in personality tests or songwriting or anything else that we can kind of dive into and help them disseminate that message more widely. That's what we do. And so it's been again, I have never been one for the typical path, Mark. I've never been in the stick in one niche and stay there. But for me, what I see is I guess, analogies between each of them. I see the similarities between each of them. And if you can abstract that up a level and say, well, we did this one thing for Jerry, and we can do the same thing for a songwriter, it's just the same tasks in a different space. And so we believe really strongly that if you can go deep into a niche with expertise, you can then go wide outside of that niche as well. And we have kind of applied that throughout our business to several different areas, like you mentioned, a lot of different niches that we've been able to play in.
For instance, give us a few examples of the other niches.
Yeah, so we've done relationships, like marriage relationships. We've done e-commerce. We worked with a company in Nashville, out of Nashville, called the Peach Truck, which goes and gets Georgia peaches and brings them up to Nashville for the season. And then that expanded to like many different cities throughout the country. And so we were able to work with e-commerce. We've worked with speakers. Patsy Claremont is a dear friend of our business and a former client. And we've worked with Better Songs is probably the other example that's most on my mind right now. And that's a songwriter, Grammy award-winning songwriter who I went to school with at Belmont, who is now teaching songwriters how to write better songs.
Oh, great. Wow. And you've got a team. I mean, you've got a nice sized staff.
Yeah, we do.
Just, yeah,
And
just
they're
looking
smart.
at it.
They're
Yeah.
geniuses. And so we're able to work with them to develop amazing strategy. And they do amazing work. I mean, they have mastered the art of digital marketing for now. And I'll say that because one of our core values is to always be learning. There's always something new coming in digital marketing. You mentioned it at the top of the show. There's always something that's now. And so we
Yeah.
know the now and we're looking for the future as well. And they do a really great job of that. We're lucky to have them.
That's great. All right. So I come to you, I've got a brand new novel and I want to engage, leverage brands. Give me an idea of your process and what are you going to tell me that you can do? What are you going to tell me that I should be doing? How do you start?
Yeah, that's a great question. We start with questions. And so the things that I would ask you, Mark, so we'll play this hypothetical out. You know, as an attorney, I like playing hypotheticals out. And we'll go down the path a little bit. But the first question I have is, are we traditionally publishing or are we self-publishing this book?
Okay, I'll say traditional.
Great. And so I think that when you're traditionally publishing, you have more stakeholders involved. And so maybe that means you have a little bit more budget from the publishing company that you're using. The question would be, do we have control of that budget? Do they have control of that budget? Have we corresponded with their team at all? Have they presented a marketing strategy? Because what we want to make sure that we do, and it's in our name, we leverage brands. So we're going to take the assets that you already have that are working for you, in this case, the traditionally published marketing team, and we're going to leverage what they're doing to go further. And so if they are going to run ads on a particular radio show, then we might target those radio show listeners through Facebook ads so that your book is in front of them again. One of the things we love to do is set up some sort of lead magnet so that you can build some sort of launch list that you're going to eventually launch your book to. Because the thing that I am adamant about is that you need a list you can control. Social media is not a list you can control. The publisher's list is not a list that you can control. Even other people's lists, you can't control that either. And so you want to make sure that you have a list you control, whether that's an email address or a phone number, so that you can get them excited, so that you can communicate with them about the book that you're releasing. And then the other question that I would ask is, when does the book launch?
And if I say tomorrow, that's probably not so helpful. So I'm going to say 6 months.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Yeah, if it's 6 months, we got some stuff that we can do. If
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
tomorrow, there's still
yeah,
some stuff we can do. It's just
yeah,
going to severely limit what we might be able
yeah.
to focus on. And so one of the things that is crucial in a phase like that is if you're 6 months out, you might have some time to do some SEO strategy, to build up some keywords on your website around the novel that you're going to release. You might have some time to do a PR tour, whether that's guest posts on blogs, whether that's guest appearances on podcasts, whether that's going to some traditional media, radio shows, TV shows, even local, and really just build that launch list. That's what we're trying to do. We want a list of people that we control so that when the launch comes, we can make an event of it. And that event needs to have a couple of different things. One, it needs to have timeliness. Two, it needs to have scarcity. And three, it needs to have something valuable that the reader wants. And the book is the start of that, but I don't think the book is the finish, excuse me. And so we want to make sure that the launch has all of those things. And then you also want to plan post-launch. What are we doing post-launch to nurture that list and continue to bring them back to the book so that we can have something incredible for this audience beyond the book? And really, that's a lot of what we focus on, Mark, is the beyond the book. We do book marketing, but we also do the beyond the book. What's in between book releases for the audience so that we can keep them engaged and really just grow that audience over time so that each book launch becomes bigger than the last.
What did you mean by scarcity?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting. There's a book called The Psychology of Influence. I know you're going to ask me about a book later, but this book is not the one I will mention. But
Okay.
for marketers, Psychology of Influence is amazing. Robert Cialdini. And he talks about the different pieces of marketing that you should be concerned about when you're preparing an offer. Scarcity is one of those. You have felt it probably. So Disney does it every time they put a DVD into the vault or a Blu-ray into the vault. That's
Blu-ray.
scarcity. Yeah. You have it when you have a limited edition. So if you have a serial number on something, authors do it sometimes with signed books. They'll do it with meetups, but doing something to where the first X number of people who purchase get Y. That's scarcity. And that's something we want to add in and bake into the launch just to make sure. And traditionally published books do this all the time as well. You'll even have different ISBNs for a particular version of the book at Barnes and Noble, for instance. I know that I've seen that a ton. So there's a lot of different ways that you can bake scarcity in, but scarcity is just making people feel like if I don't get this one, I'm missing out. And that's really what we want to do with that.
That's great. Well, I like the whole idea, and I think a lot of authors will talk about the power of building an email list and doing newsletters and constantly communicating with your group, your people,
Right.
and bringing them along and sharing good reviews and sharing events and where you're going to be. What is your advice on the other side of it, the non-controlled side of it, social media, and just, they're obviously on, whether they're calling it Twitter or X right now, or on the new Threads or TikTok, there's just this, like, you're just spewing out information. You have no idea where it's going or who might be picking it up or seeing it.
Yeah, it's a great question. We get asked it all the time because I think at the end of the day, what do authors want to do? They want to write. They don't want to be in charge of the marketing of the book. They're going to have to be, especially in this day and age, whether it's traditionally published or self-published. The author has to engage in that, but they want to put the time in to get the results that are going to maximize the book sales.
Yeah.
And so I think when you're looking at where to do that, you have to really know who you're writing to. Because if I know who I'm writing to, I can find those people online in particular groups on Facebook, or I can find them in particular subreddit communities, or I can find them somewhere online where I can become the expert for them to where they're going to buy my book. And I think the problem, there's a couple of problems, but one of them is we get to the day before book launch and we're like, I don't think I'm going to sell as many books as I wanted to. I got to get in front of these people today and they got to buy the book today. So with 6-month lead time, you can take incremental steps to build that relationship and trust so that you can get them to buy your book. And I think that's really what you want to try to do. But the thing that we do and the thing that we're really intentional about is testing and iterating. And so is TikTok the best place to be? Is Threads the best place to be? Is X the best place to be? Is Facebook the best place to be? I don't know. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't know. But I know that we can test it and then we can iterate on that test. And so maybe we start with a broad swath test. We say, okay, we don't know which one to be on. We're going to do duplicative content tailored to the platform across 4 of them for 30 days. Where do we gain the most momentum? Okay, we're going to focus on that channel now for the next 30 days and do just content tailored to that platform. We're going to learn all we can about that platform and really focus on it for the next 30 to 60 days. And if that works, great. You have a place to talk to your audience. If it doesn't work, then you go back to what was the second best of the 4, So you baseline and then you test, but you do it intentionally so that it progresses you toward the results you're looking for. And that's why even if your book's not finished, even if you don't have a publisher, even if you don't have an agent, that's why you can build a platform today, because that intentional effort you're putting in today will benefit you down the road when you're talking to agents or publishers. I already know where my audience is. I found them because I've tested. And I have this group who listens to me now online. That's helpful. That's what they mean by, do you have a platform? Well, anybody can have a platform. You just have to intentionally test to build it.
And when you talk about looking at the data back from those tests, are you talking about having run ads or boosting posts, or are you talking about looking at the data from organic content that you've posted online? Is it the author's own user-generated content, so to speak?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about specifically is first organically. Where am I getting the most traction? And then after organic, then maybe you decide to do a test where you're boosting posts. But the thing that you don't want to do, Mark, is get too many things going at the same time to where you can't manage all the different data points that are coming in. Because honestly, if you're writing a book, if you're in the middle of a manuscript, that should take 80% of your working time on the manuscript. And maybe 20% tailored to marketing, right? And so with this 20% tailored to marketing, you want to make sure that you're running tests that you can manage across the board. So I'm doing some tests right now on our book, for instance, but I'm doing it specifically to where I can just manage it with all the other work projects that we have going on. We have a product launch for Jerry coming up, and we have other things going on with Better Songs and all these other things. So I'm doing a couple of tests now that I can measure and then iterate on. But you don't want to get too many going at the same time where it's overwhelming, because that's the issue in the beginning, right? Is that marketing is overwhelming. Let's make it bite-sized. And you do that by testing intentionally with your best ideas.
I've always said there's no shortage of good you can do with marketing. You could spend 24 hours a day, and everything you do has the potential to be a positive influence on sales of your book. And a lot of it is just time of being online or interacting or writing a blog or, going outside and shooting a cute video or something like that. It's all good. The question is, at what point do you say enough and manage your time? So you're suggesting we be strategic about it.
That's right. Well, I'm so glad you said that, because I think the longer that I'm in this business, the more I'm seeing that consistency of content is maybe the most important thing. Consistency of great content, even better. Yeah. Not every post you hit is going to be a slam dunk, right? It's not going to be a home run, whatever analogy you want to use. But if you're consistently posting, you have a better chance at home runs. You have a better chance at things that really take off and move the needle. So I think that that's so important that you said that. You got to be present in the field to succeed. And that's proven to me over and over again over time.
So does Leverage Brands just provide the strategy that, and then the author then goes off and implements the tactics, the steps, or can we also hire you to actually manage all the social media channels and make suggestions, build a content calendar, so to speak, that would say, okay, 3 Instagram posts this week, here's what they're going to say, 2 Instagram posts next week, 5 TikToks in the next 2 weeks, that kind of thing?
Yes, the answer is yes. We've done both.
Okay.
And we have succeeded more when we are the ones implementing, but obviously that's not within the budget for everyone, because like I said, we have a team of experts. So we're not always the right partner there. We're intentionally trying to get more strategic on being able to get the strategy out to more people, because we want to help as many people as possible, right? And so we're building something alongside Jerry called Author Platform Blueprint, which is a product where we give you 90-day action plans to go implement on based on our conversation. It's individually tailored. And so we're building that alongside of him to help his audience. And of course, the audiences that we talk to, full of authors who have messages that are important to share. If there's an implementation step beyond that, that's always a conversation that we can have. And we want to give you enough to get going on your own, even if there's not the budget to do that. Because I know we said traditionally published in the example. I know a lot of people are self-publishing and they're handling all the pieces of it, whether it's vanity press or hybrid publishing or whatever. And so we want to be sure that we can meet people where they are to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, it's just like we were talking about, so hard to know exactly what to say, when to say it. And once you step out into these spaces, you can feel a little overwhelmed by all the other messages coming at you from other authors, talking about their books and their success. How do you sort of encourage or coax first timers into this space to keep their chin up, so to speak, and keep at it?
Man, that's not easy, is it? It's
Yeah.
it's something we all run into. There's a platform called Upwork. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a place where you can find different freelancers for different things. And as a test, I put myself on Upwork. And for 30 days, I was putting out proposals. I was getting in front of people, digital marketing strategy, branding, all of these things. And I've had huge success with clients who are doing 7 figures in different avenues, different niches. And I come to Upwork and I have all that success behind me the past 10 years. And I get 0 jobs. Like nobody wants to hire me. And in that moment, I'm like, well, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe the problem is me. And I think as an author, you run into that same problem. Maybe the problem is me. Maybe nobody wants to hear my message. And so in our book, one of the last chapters is about perseverance. You need to persevere because I believe the great American novel has been written and it's in somebody's drawer and they just haven't gotten it out. They haven't put themselves on the line to take that next step. And I believe that because I've seen it. I have an artist who does this really cool pop music with orchestra symphonies, with orchestral arrangements. And it's amazing. He is one of the most talented people I've ever met. And I got a call from him after he had just done a show in New York City after the first snow, and 19 people showed up. And you know what I told him? It's what I'll tell your authors. Persevere. Keep moving forward. Keep going. It's worth keep going. And now he's had millions upon millions of streams on TikTok and he's signed to a label deal and all of these different things. But if he had said, well, there we go, it's not meant to be, we wouldn't have his music. It's the same thing with your authors. If you didn't keep going, we wouldn't have your book. And we need it. You've been given this message to share. It's on your heart and we need to hear it. You've been given this story to share. You've been given this world. Like some of these authors build incredible worlds in their fantasy, in the fantasy genre or sci-fi genre. And you've been given this thing to share and we need it. You just can't give up. It's not that one person's better than another person. It's that one person didn't give up and the other person did. One of the authors that I worked with very first in my career, he had 54 rejection letters before his book got published. It launched. It did nothing after that. And then 6 weeks later, a woman named Robin Roberts picked it up, put it on Good Morning America, and said, I loved this book. And now it's sold over 1 million copies. So,
Wow.
Because of that one thing, because he didn't give up. And do you know what the 7th thing in that book was? Persist without exception. And he proved it. He did it. And so that doesn't mean you're going to have that same level of success, but I can guarantee you, you won't have success if you give up.
Right. Yep. If we stay home, we know exactly what's going to happen. If we step out the door, we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. Let's just talk a little bit about, the ever shifting landscape of social media. It's so hard to keep up, in a way. TikTok seems like it is just going to be here for a long time. It is, no matter what states are trying to ban it and all these different things, it is especially for books and authors, if you're not on TikTok and seeing the conversation and the enthusiasm of users, that's one thing. I'd love to hear your comments on TikTok. Is Threads gonna survive in the battle against Twitter? Is Twitter still viable? And give us your take on Instagram and Facebook, and what am I missing out of what else is there out there?
Man, social media is such an enigma because you don't know what's going to work. You don't know what platforms are going to stay. And so for us, again, it's about testing. It's
Hmm.
about testing and iterating. And so if you have an established platform on a social media platform, our advice is get that platform to something you control. Get it to an email list, get it to phone numbers, because while TikTok looks like it might stay forever now,
Yeah.
if a state bans it, or if the United States bans it, then all of a sudden you're out of luck. And so you got to get that to a list that you can control. And so that's step number one. If you have an established following, get it somewhere you control. If you don't, what we've seen is that emerging platforms offer the greatest opportunity to build followings. That's just true. It's harder to break in once the thought leaders of the space are already established. Does that mean TikTok's not emerging anymore? I don't know. I think that you could probably still break in. It would take a little bit of luck. Does that mean Threads is going to stick around forever and you can build a platform there? Maybe, maybe not. I can't tell you the answer to that question, but emerging platforms seem to work better if you're trying to build an audience. Now, after saying all of that, I'll also tell you a story of when something just, we didn't know why it worked. So when we took over for Jerry, we started a pretty aggressive SEO campaign, and he started ranking for some really high value keywords, and that was great. And we said, well, why don't we add a YouTube channel? Because he had a YouTube channel that had maybe 4,000 subscribers. I checked yesterday; it has 180,000 subscribers.
Wow.
I can't tell you why that happened, Mark. We just showed up, and we consistently posted content, and
Yeah.
it took off almost on its own. We've tried to replicate it with other brands and other niches. I think eventually it would work, but for him, it was like a snowball down a hill. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so sometimes you just run into luck, but luck favors the people who are there. And so you have to at least try it and show up on those platforms to know exactly what you're doing. And then I would get somebody who's done it before who can help you. We've
Hmm.
worked with a bunch of great social media people over the years. We do social media internally now. And there's just a lot of different opportunities to get advice on social media. And usually it's not super expensive to do that, but it's a process, it's involved, and you just can't guarantee the results until you see something take off. And once you see something take off, that's when you double down and double down and double down, and you keep pushing for it because that will necessarily allow it to continue to grow.
Yeah. Just real quickly, how do you take a TikTok follower and convert that into a name and a phone number you could control?
We call that a lead magnet. And so you're giving them something off platform that they want, and you're asking for their email address in return or their phone number in return. You've probably seen this as a PDF download. You may have seen it as a free chapter to a book. You may have seen it as a test or assessment quiz, even a consult call. Any of these could be lead magnets that somebody's using to get you off of the platform that they don't control and into a platform that they do. And we help people to create those all the time to really some good success levels too. Especially when you have an established following, it's pretty easy to peel off a percentage of that following. And that's a worthwhile, you were talking about ad spend before. That's a worthwhile way to spend money on ads, is to get people into a platform you control from one that you don't.
Yeah. I was just trying to think about it on TikTok, unless you can't put in a link in your bio until you get to 1,000 followers or something like that. And you until that point, you're just putting out videos, which are you can't, I don't know. How would you communicate with your followers and say, do this? I guess you'd post a video saying, do this.
I'll give you an example. Mark, I've opened up some time for your people to talk to me. You go to leveragebrands.co/pod. That's leveragebrands.com/pod. And you can talk to me about your business. And so you could do a TikTok video just as simple as that, put in a call to action at each one. Or you can do the other option of saying, I'm going to build this up to 1,000 people no matter what, so that I can get that link in the bio.
Yeah.
And we have tried both of those things to different levels of success based on the niche and the brand. But those are the two paths you could take: either do a video call to action, or do something where you're actually putting people to follow. The call to action is follow me, follow me, follow me. And then once they follow you and you get to 1,000, you put it in your link tree or whichever TikTok link platform you want to use.
Right. Wow. A lot to keep track of.
There's a lot. And I'm not here to say it's easy. I think if it
Yeah.
was easy, everybody would be doing it. I think it is simple though, in the sense that it's a funnel. You have the top of funnel. Everybody focuses on the top of funnel activity. That's social media, that's blog posts, that's guest posting. And all of that needs to lead to your second level, which is your leads. That's your
Yeah.
email addresses or phone numbers. And then you go to your products from that. And your products in this case are your books. And so you sell your books to these people. And I think that at every step along the way, you got to be intentional with your tests to make sure you're getting the most results from the least amount of time. And I'm sure your audience has heard of the Pareto principle. 20% of your activity will yield 80% of the results. That's a principle that kind of just endures. But that's also fractional. So 4% of the activity, I'm not good at math. You know, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
We don't do
Yeah.
math, but it keeps going down. So of that
Yeah.
20%, it's 20/80. Of that 4% is 20/80, etc. So you can keep focusing on the highest value activities to get the most results. Especially as you're writing a book, that's necessary so that you can make sure that you're putting the effort and time into writing a great book.
Yeah. Very good. Well, just to give us an idea, what is sort of the entry level dollar amount we'd be looking at to talk to you and engage you? And then can you give us an idea what sort of, do you have various packages and do they range up? How many
Yeah,
banks do I need to rob?
we're building that now. We're building the packages pages now. But I did mention, and I'll say it again, we have some free consultations available right now, and we can kind of tailor a solution based on that first conversation. It's about a 15-minute call, and that's with me or with my business partner. And intentionally, we're building this out because we're trying to expand beyond the services that we've typically provided, because we've only taken on 4 clients a year. That's been our goal.
Wow.
And we've done that because we've been working with, best-selling authors, leading executives, speakers, keynotes, all that kind of thing. And we're trying to bring that strategy now to more people. And we want to do that through a free consultation. So leveragebrands.co/pod. And then beyond that, it's truly based on what you need. So it's a menu of services. We've charged as much as tens of thousands of dollars a month. We've charged in the hundreds of dollars a month, depending on what we're trying to accomplish together. So it's really dependent on the particular situation that the person's in.
Good. Yeah. Got it. Wow. Well, this has been great. Before I ask you for that book recommendation, is there anything else you'd like to pass along or share that I haven't asked you?
We love to do this kind of thing. We love sharing our expertise. That's one of our core values as well. So if there's any questions that you have and you don't want to sign up for a consult call, just email me. Mark, you can put my email in the podcast links as well. It's just chase@leveragebrands.co. I'd love to talk to you even through email about what you're facing, the issues that you're facing, and help any way that I can. We want to share that expertise, and we can point you in a good direction because we've done a lot of reading on that topic specifically.
Very, very good. Great. Well, we always do like to have our guests recommend a book and pay it forward a little bit. So giving you the opportunity.
Can I give you 2? Is that allowed? I'll give you
We'll
2.
let you go. We'll let you do 2.
Okay, great. Here's the first one. I am currently rereading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to my kids. And it is so good, guys. I don't know if you remember it, or the little pithy comments that C.S. Lewis makes to the reader in it, the description, it's all good. So just sometimes go back to whimsy, go back to the fiction of your youth and read it. It's inspiring. So that's number 1. Number 2, we've talked a lot about testing and iterating. That core concept comes from Atomic Habits, which is James Clear's book. It is very good. It's one of the best nonfiction books I've read in the past probably 3 years. And I read a lot of those. James Clear's Atomic Habits, we make our employees read that too. But it's all about the compounding effects of activity over time. And so I think that it's crucial for us as we're trying to eat the elephant to remember that, honestly, if you eat it a bite at a time, you will eventually eat the elephant. And you guys can do this. You can move forward. So Atomic Habits and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Chase, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Best of luck to you, and we'll catch up with you maybe again down the road.
Sounds good. I'd love to be back. Thank you, Mark.